And welcome back inside Brunch. Going to do this all the way up until 12 o'clock. I am graced in the studio with the presence of three wonderful, hard-working representatives of the Employers Consultative Association. The CEO of that organization, Giselle Francois Opadei, made a statement that caught my attention, and it should catch the attention of the nation. Consultation, not confrontation. That's the advice that was given to stakeholders, both employers and employees. The Employers Consultative Association last week made this, recognizing the urgency of making a statement because of the anxious moment enjoyed by workers throughout Trinidad and Tobago, retrenchment in some areas, and employers with their propensity to cut down on the expenses reach to the, what folks say is the easiest tool they can find, which is to get rid of workers. That, however, has a ripple effect, as we all know, because if you get rid of workers, you get rid of money in the street. There is no money in the community is not going to spend, the business is going to suffer, the business is going to lay off more people, and the business is going to close. It sounds so easy when you folks say it. It's amazing how it seems so difficult for folks to digest it. Let me welcome our guest in this morning. The director, let me start with the lady first, is the way it should be. Director Giselle Estrada, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning and welcome to all the listeners.
I thank you so much for joining us this morning. Director Neil Derrick. Good morning to you, Neil.
Thank you, Rennie.
What did Neil Mike do? There you go.
Sorry. Thank you, Rennie. Good morning to all.
You're welcome. And, of course, your CEO is here, but she probably will join us at the bottom of the hour. Ms. Giselle Francois Opadei. Thank you so much. As I mentioned, the mission of the organization, among others, is to give leadership advice. In this climate where it varies whether we are in a recession or not, there is one indisputable fact, inescapable, and that is the question that the economy is on its way down. There is a new normal. How disposed are employers to understanding the advice given by your CEO that consultation must be the priority and not confrontation and or the easy get rid of people? Who takes that? Go ahead, Neil.
I would. I think we need to start from the point that manpower cost is generally the highest number on most balance sheets. Mm-hmm. So surely when there's a downturn, whether it's a recession or it's a downturn, all that has to do more with theoretical definitions. Mm-hmm. But we are faced with the fact that the main income earner, energy, we are seeing depressed oil prices, depressed product prices, and we expect this will last for a while. Mm-hmm. So I think surely the country is faced with that. Employers are faced with the fact that the largest part of the balance sheet is manpower, and obviously the pressure is to possibly get to somewhere where you can manage costs, and that's possibly a knee-jerk reaction that says, okay, what we need to do is cut manpower. The issue we as we see it, and I think you have actually in your open remarks gave a broad view of what we think will happen. Mm-hmm. It's how do we do that? And I could go back to maybe 1999 when there was the first attempt of, I think it was called Promalco at that time and driven by the ILO. Mm-hmm. That started bringing the three parties together. That's government, employers, and workers to start having some conversations. There was also the compact, an attempt of a compact in 2000, which is kind of after the Barbados model. Mm-hmm. I think what we are saying is that there are ways that the three parties could make adjustments. Mm-hmm. And together, if they could sit in consultation, we could discuss those adjustments before some kind of knee-jerk reaction. And I'm saying we have to look at improving efficiency. That's a must. You have to look at controlling costs, mm-hmm. but you also have to look at other things that may be. Let me give an example, for instance. The government would have most recently said that they were going to increase the tax allowances, moving from $60,000 to $70,000 a year. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, in that, it provides a little more. It provides additional funds to the person now from tax. All right. Now, that's one way that says, okay, fine, with the income that you have today, you could buy more. Mm-hmm. All right. Surely, in the discussion, if all the parties are looking at saying, okay, fine, now, because you still have the workers that are asking for income increase. I mean, increases in income. Right? It was the negotiations, and it is chasing after food prices, because we know that the retail price or the retail food index has been the main driver of the retail price index. If we look at the curves, we will see in general the retail price index curve is following the retail food index curve. I mean, I used to listen to you on radio much when I was in secondary school, so I know we kind of around the same time. And we remember when they used to post on the shop doors price lists, price control lists, right? So there are systems that we've used in Trinidad before for managing price control on food. And I'm saying, if we start talking about these things in this scenario, all right, and I want to go to a little broader thing too. The economists have generally been speaking about the Dutch disease, Trinidad catching the Dutch disease. One thing we have had in the plenty, we've had wages going very high. So in all the sectors, the wages have actually moved to a point where the sunlight soap we used to know is now called Radianti.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's moving faster than the wage increase is the cost of land, but go ahead.
Sure.
Real estate, unbelievable, yes.
Right. But I'm saying that the sunlight soap we used to know is now called Radianti. Right? What that basically says is a lot of the things that Lever used to make in Trinidad and Tobago, it is not economical to make it anymore, because our salaries, our salaries and wages have outstripped our competitiveness, right? In terms of the markets we have to sell into. And if we do not come together, Barbados has done it in terms of the compact. And we are saying it mightn't be as strict as the compact in a formal sense that says all these rules, which may come out. But I'm sure that if we start sitting, raising the things that affect us most, and having some conversation about it, because it is either that we're going to do it pre or we're going to do it post. I'm
going to ask you to delineate that Barbados compact in a moment, because sometimes we involved in the baseball game and we know what we're talking about, but folks don't understand. But I'll get to that in a minute. Folks who are just joining us, that voice you hear is of Director Neil Derrick. I'm going to introduce Director Giselle Estrada here just to let you understand what is the ECA just for a moment. It's important that you understand. I had him lay the foundation. Now understand the authority on which he speaks. All right? So, Director Giselle Estrada, thank you so much for joining us. Make clear for our listeners, what is the ECA?
The ECA, we stand for the Employers Consultative Association. We are there to advise employers on industrial relations issues, HR issues generally, to do the right thing. At the end of the day, employers rely on us. We provide consultancy services as part of the services that we give to employers. Against the background in terms of what's happening now, employers will be looking towards the ECA for guidance. And as Neil has put it, the best way to approach it is to be proactive rather than to be reactive. One of the good things that we have going in terms of the current reality is that the situation with ArcelorMittal, we see that the players are all involved. The government, the unions, and the company has also written to the Minister of Labour with a view to have that much-needed consultation, which is what we are promoting.
The tripartite
approach. In terms of the intimate details, in terms of the discussions that took place with regard to the parties, well, of course, we would not be privy to that. But it is obvious that from a business model, ArcelorMittal, in terms of the challenges that they are now facing, it appears as though the competitive advantage from the Trinidad leg is no longer there. So there are hard business decisions that are about to be made.
I like your qualification, because you quantum leap me into an area that I'm coming to later on. But I like your qualification. But it appears, because there's a whole world history following this company that calls for a different conversation. I just wanted to put that inside of their labor leaders so you all don't think that I missed it. But please go ahead.
Because when we look at, and Neil brought up the point in terms of historically, we are not at this leg for the first time in our history. As it relates to that particular company, they were at this juncture in 2009, in January of 2009. What is unfortunate now is that in terms of the quantum leap, the numbers at the time, their numbers would have been just over 100 workers would have been impacted when they embarked on a similar retrenchment exercise in 2009. So it means that they are sending a stronger message now to the wider population, because they are operating in an economic environment that is really having challenges as well. It is no secret that we in Trinidad and Tobago are operating in a declined economy. the Business Guardian some weeks ago did a very good story with regard to all that is taking place and the costs that the business has to endure. This is ArcelorMittal.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found coming out of that article was that the cost of energy that they have to pay for, I would imagine that coupled with the labor costs as well. And the period, now is the winter time for the steel. So people don't use steel normally worldwide.
It may be in the wintertime for steel, but it's the summertime for China. They're producing everything really cheap.
Yes.
And I think that at the bottom of the base of it is this whole question of the amount that's coming out of China that's interfering with world markets, is it not?
And it provides an opportunity, and I say opportunity, for other businesses to look at how competitive they are in terms of increasing their efficiencies. So Neil has hit the nail on the head in terms of starting that consultative process.
I got you. Neil, I'm going to throw this right back at you. Giselle Estrada is the voice you just heard. When you speak in terms of dealing with labor and you take what drew me to your organization in the first place, I know of your organization, but what drew me to it was because of your CEO's statement, consultation, not confrontation. There is an adversarial relationship that has existed between business and labor for a long time. Talking about consultation, you first of all must remove that. We have to dilute or remove that barrier. How difficult is that?
Well, Rennie, let me just, and even before, I just want to piggyback a little bit on what Giselle said.
Please.
That as the ECA, we are also, because the government is a member of the ILO treaty, we are also the formal representative by the as far as the ILO, in terms of ILO recognition, the ECA is the formal representative for employers in Trinidad and Tobago. But going back to what you just said, Karl Marx says that we are in natural conflict. The employer wants to make profit, the workers want to get the best of benefits. Right? So one is at a cost, so one rules the next. However,
man starts quoting Marx so early in the morning, you know we come from the same school. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
but I mean, however, whatever happens, at the end of the day, the business can't survive if we don't work together. So there's also what you say, that the plural perspective that says if we do not focus on what the business is and the survival of the business, then we both die. And I think the consultation starts there. That says, it's at this point, when the fire is in the forest, right, the rabbit and the lion runs in the same direction. And I think we have to put all those things down. That says, okay, fine.
The speed with which they're running and where they may be diverted for shelter may be a different issue. And I'll get more specific with our analogy right here, because many folks feel that this knee-jerk reaction we're talking about is a difficult time for everybody, as you have said correctly. There is a reason for us to break these barriers. That's evident. However, what the question is, many feel that employers are reluctant to adjust their profit line, their profit margin. And this is, to them, a sticking point.
And
you represent employers.
Surely.
Respond, please.
And as I mean, we would have gone off to say to our employers, look, consultation. Because one of the concerns that you have is if you do not have the consultation now, then you are going to have industrial action strikes. And then we go to the table. And we have the same discussion that we could have had before without the acrimony. Right? And the same things that we're going to ask, because surely, if we just take the example of ArcelorMittal, since that was the core organization when this conversation started, if you look at some of the factors they've identified, one is energy. Surely, after they lay down, they have to go to speak to the government about energy prices. So, if the three were together at the same point, the workers, employers, and the government, right, and you had a three-way conversation, then you may have found a better solution.
There's concurrence here with me. I mean, I'm not at variance with you on that. I am just saying, look, we've got a situation here where folks find it very difficult to accept that you, as a representative of the employers, are in fact understanding the welfare and rights of the workers. That is the divide right there. So it's a case of how we break that down and bring people to understand that we all have a stake in this and we all can lose on this, which is not dissimilar to what you're saying.
Yeah, and I'm saying we still represent the employers. We're just trying to get the concern that says if you do not identify that without your workers you have no business, and we don't shape that. by consultation, then we run the risk of losing you as a member.
I understand exactly what you're saying. By the way, before I go back to Giselle on this, is the criteria for joining the ECA what? Just about any employer can, in fact, join the
Any
organization?
employer can.
All right.
You could be a sole trader.
Good. I asked that just to
as well
remove
as it could be
the
a company.
conception that this is an elite group dealing with an elite group of people. So I'm glad you answered that. You had something in October that dealt with productivity.
Absenteeism seminar.
Absenteeism, yes. Inside of there, you invited what I found interesting, some groups who have found a way to deal with this. I am amazed. Somebody was able to find a way. So tell us, what are the secrets to dealing with this? Because at the end of the day, you've got a domino situation. We are where we are here, and it's difficult. Why? Because if you look at our production over the years, we've been falling. When the tough times are here, folks are not saying, okay, let's get more innovative, let's get rid of the fat. However, if you had production at a certain level, the company would be making more and be in a better position now to cushion the effect of it. That's my juxta right in there, right? So we come into the area of production. Let's deal with production. And how were you able to deal with that big question of absenteeism? Because that, at the end of the day, undermines everything. And I'm shocked at what I have seen here. But I don't think it's dissimilar to what's happening in the rest of the world. And we'll get to the question of service after. But just with the absenteeism.
Our approach at the consultation, we looked at it from the point of view in terms of the culture. We have a unique culture in Trinidad and Tobago. It needs no introduction. We are party people, for want of a better term.
I hear that.
How very good or how very bad that is as it relates to productivity is another matter. But employees don't operate in isolation. They are managed. So one also has to look at how well they are managed. What is interesting is that, again, coming back to ArcelorMittal, one of the articles in the Guardian, they spoke about a high absenteeism, over 10%, which is above the world rate. Is normally under 5%. You try to have that 5%, in terms of that world ranking. At the conference, we had 3 companies who shared with us their success stories. And it really feeds into employee engagement and coming right back to that management issue. In terms of the leadership, the best way to lead is by example. We knew that. One of the companies shared with us is that they offered incentives. They had an issue where the people were staying away, so they put in a productivity bonus so that you find that it was a manufacturing type environment. It worked well. You will appreciate from where you sit, one size can't fit all. So that worked well in that scenario. Let's say you have a financial environment where the emphasis is on customer service. You will have challenges in that regard. You will have to have now,
putting it mildly,
creative ways for persons to get to work on time, because we also have a transportation issue in Trinidad and Tobago. We are at a road. We're in a situation where we're locked in with all your good intentions to get to work at 8 o'clock. I don't know that the average employer now can say that he has 40 or 50% of his workers at opening time. So are we going to penalize those employees who genuinely want to get to work on time? So those are issues that we need to come up with. Is it that we're going to offer flexi time? And if we do, what about our customers? What are they looking for from us? I gather in that same situation, they also have an issue with the absenteeism, because if it is 10%, that's pretty high. And you also have a parallel situation working alongside those core workers where you have the contract workers, an issue that the union has taken umbrage to. Is it that these contract workers are supplementing the permanent workforce? Those are questions that we need to ask ourselves. But we also, as employer representatives, we also need to pay attention to that, because those things cause HR and IR issues. And these are things that we can avoid. And if it is that we're having the proactive approach, we need to look at those things in its entirety.
Well, I'm encouraged because you said, in fact, something I think I said with Mr. Murray when he used to here a moment ago. Children cease to be children when adults cease to be adults. Natural extension is workers practice certain things because those in charge of monitoring them and enforcing rules are, in fact, lax. So many have to look at the kind of people they have at the managerial level who understand that you're a manager, not a best friend. That's a whole different thing. I also have a problem accepting that we are a party people. We are people who party and have fun, but we can't produce. They can live in the same house. Anyway, I'm going across on my
But Rennie, you
my
must
trip.
agree that our productivity levels are not where it ought to be.
Without question. No, without question. I am very, very saddened when I see every year we keep slipping, and you just walk around and you see it. Let's go back into bring Neil back into this. There is the discussion, and your organization deal with employers all the time. I am amazed. It was not part of my thrust this morning, but you just introduced it, Giselle, and I like it. The question of flexi time. Why is that something that is not embraced? Because clearly you drive out of your from your home park or side of the street, and you just move into the parking lot. I mean, you're not going anywhere. I mean, that's it. Most you get to do is move fast, driving out from the driveway area onto the main road, and forget it after that. You live wherever you want. You get across by Grand Bazaar area there, and you forget it. All right, so what is the reluctance? What is the problem with folks embracing flexi time? Tell me something I don't know, because I don't understand it.
Well, I think, Rennie, what we need to look at is, well, I don't know that we have actually used the change in technology as much as we need to. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying there is the computer has created a bigger change than we've actually identified. One of the things that it has done is that it has moved from the engine, which is on the roads, which is moving people to information, to, in reverse, moving information to people. And in that case, a lot of things that we now had to go to the office to do could be done. We have to also understand that in terms of flexi time, it allows for certain jobs, because you have a lot of jobs that are continuous. People who are in shift systems, in cycles, people who serve persons. So in some cases, I think that some organizations have been able to establish flexi time. BP, for instance, and some of those use the 980 system now. But all of that works for where you have persons in remote areas. So I wouldn't say that you don't have the use of flexi time. I think there are a lot of innovative ways that they have used flexi time. Some people stay away from it because of the management of it. They say that a lot of times when you set those systems, you now have to police it, because a lot of the workers come in at the later time and leave at the earlier time. But I think that's really a management issue. And so I think organizations have to look at redesigning themselves as the technology comes in, and being able to look at what will best meet their own needs. Because I don't think that you could take a very general application to all the organizations. You have to take the organizations in terms of what they're into, how they're structured, whether they run in continuous shifts, how they serve the public, and all those things will determine what could be done at flexi time. But I think many organizations have not done it in a full sense, but I think there are areas that have been operating. I'm sure when we look at some of the agreements that because we also monitor the collective agreements of our many members, including non-members, and we look at what is happening generally in Trinidad, and we see that a lot of them have that built into the systems.
In case you just locked into us, it's 27 minutes after 11 o'clock. My guests are directors of the Employers Consultative Association, Neil Derrick and Giselle Estrada. Though she's objected somewhat, we will probably try to get the CEO inside of here for a moment. Reluctant, I guess. Okay, so she's just stayed on the side this morning. We're talking about the problems met by employers, the question of working together with unions, making clear to everybody we are all stakeholders. And there is another stakeholder in this one, the people we employ. I did say the people we employ, the government. So it comes into the area of the tripartite proposal that's coming from the Prime Minister that your organization embraced. Explain to us, please, how you expect this to work for the betterment of the country in a climate like this.
Well, the parties will get together. They have already started the process, albeit with some measure of force. But it's good in terms of the dialogue, which is really needed. It has started, starting with both the head of the country, which is the Prime Minister, and also the person responsible for labor, which is the Minister of Labor. Kudos has to be given for the turnaround time in terms of the getting involved right away, given the magnitude of that situation. Because, as Neil said earlier on, one has to try to avoid a ripple effect. We saw just a few days after that situation took place, one of the subsidiaries of ArcelorMittal, they too sent home workers. So it means that other employers may very well be contemplating a similar scenario.
Mm-hmm.
I gather that there would be a call very soon from the Minister of Labour to get all parties involved, to start some sort of national consultation. Given our economic scenario, the budget, in terms of all that came out of the budget, it's no secret where we're heading.
Mm-hmm.
So I see that as no strange issue in 2016. I expect that we will be ready as the ECA to engage in these discussions should we be required to attend, because we would have already started embarking on a program. We plan to do a seminar with our membership as at the 14th of January with regard to retrenchment as not the first option.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we want to meet with our membership and do some presentations with them and let them know what options they are out there. And as the Prime Minister has echoed, it should be the last resort.
When I come back, I'm going to throw a question across to Neil Derrick. Neil, this question has to do with CPEP workers, because in talking to members of the organization, the issue of manpower is one, is it not?
It is.
Like finding people. The proposal has been made before to take CPEP workers and retrain, redirect them, make them available as part of the workforce that's needed in the manufacturing sector. I want to come back and get your take, your organization's take on that.